Hello, welcome. This is a quick video to show you a little bit about how we can use formulas to make our lives easier in Excel, especially when dealing with complicated data sets like demographics. So I will show you a few tips and tricks here. I won't get too complicated. I will talk about some potentials in Excel, but won't necessarily show them to you in this video. I'll save those for another day. But what I have here is a list of demographics of children involved in a summer program. So I've blacked out the names, so there's no identifying information here. Now, what you can see here is uh, there are drop-down lists involved in this uh, sheet. So you can see that if I go to this age range, I can choose a drop-down list if it's going to work for me. Let's see, male, you can see this drop-down also. So I can choose different categories. Here as well, if I click on it properly, I can choose their race by drop-down list as well. Because again, when you're collecting data sets, different organizations or data collectors are going to ask for different information, and they may or may not include all. They may say multiple race or biracial. They may separate Hispanic and Black as two separate things, or they may include that as one thing. So you need to be able to find out what information is being sought, and I would say create the spreadsheet from that. So what I did is create drop-down lists, and I'll show you in another video exactly how to do that. This is sort of the drop-down list, the back end of it. So what we can do from there, though, once you've created this spreadsheet, is figure out what to do with the information. So my funder now wants to know how many I have in these different categories. So if I want to find out the number of students, so under this blocked out area, you can see that there would be names if I didn't block them out. So what I want to do is create a formula. So I'm going to click on the box. I'm going to hit the equal sign, and I'm going to start to type. So I typed count, and now I'm going to see this is counts the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. This doesn't work for me. So I'm going to click count A, and this counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So now what I have to do is select the range. So I'm selecting the bottom, and I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top. Take me a little longer than I hoped. Right there. Okay, and then hit return. So now it's answered my question about number of students to 125. So I can double check this by counting, or I can look at the little numbers along the side and erase and deduct the ones that are at the top, the cells that are at the top. But I trust that this is correct because I've done it before. So now I need to know how many students are counted as Asian, how many are counted as biracial, Black, Caucasian, and other. And then I'll want the total because I want to make sure that the total matches. Now, there's an error in this sheet, and I'll show that to you later, and this is why we want to sum it. I won't solve for the error today, but I want to show you that this is why we do a sum. When I create these spreadsheets using the dropdown, I do it to minimize the perhaps occurrence of an error, but as you'll see, there's an error here. So what I want to do here is use another formula called count if. So I'm doing count if, and you see here next to it, it will count the number of cells within a range that contain a given condition. So I click on count if, and now it tells me the instructions. So count if, first I need to do the range. So I want the range to be all the way to the top. So I'm collecting all this data from the bottom to the top. Okay. So I don't want to collect the top one here. I just want to collect the ones that have the data that I'm looking for. Okay, so I've found that data. So now I'm going to go back down. I can do it in the top here also. I'll show you in a moment. But I want to keep it simple for you. So I can go up here as well, and I'm going to put comma. And then what's the criteria? So the criteria is Asian. So I'm typing Asian in quotes. The quotes are very important because it's ensuring that I'm looking just for that word, not those letters, just that word. So I'm clicking this and it says 3. So out of this whole list, there are 3 words Asian. So now you can use this for any word if you want, and we'll see as we go through in the future, through the list. So now this is where I have a little bit of a problem. So if I take this and I use our trusty little this, you see my plus sign is white. If I go over to the corner and it turns black and I drag it down, what's it going to do? It's going to use the same criteria but change this by 1. So I did that. So now what I need to do, because I don't want this like this. I don't want to be collecting only C5 and now to C129. So this is not what we want to do. So we're going to backspace that and erase it. So, okay, and now let me try it again and see if that solves our problem. So you see what I did? In order to lock in the range, this is very important. Because the other I can change easily, the word, right? That's not such a difficult situation. In order to lock in the range, I went back to my original cell and I added a $ before the cell that I'm inquiring about. So $C4 through, the colon means through, so from that to $C128. And then when I used the little black symbol and dragged it, oh, it did change them. So that did not solve my problem. So let's go back and use another method. Okay. And clear. Okay. And what we have to be careful of when we're in the middle of the formula like I am now, if I click anywhere else, it's going to add that box and we don't want that. So in order to get out of this, I need to hit return. And then that keeps it the same. Okay. So what's another way we can do it? The $ method did not work. So another method we can use, and this is correct now for 128, is I can copy and paste this. I can copy, and now I want to paste this here like that. You can see how easily you can get messed up if you're not careful. If you hit return, it brings you right back to where you want to be. Okay, so now when I'm just copying and pasting, you can see that the cells are not changing, right? Let's double check. So C4 through C128 is what we want. C4 through C128. So this is an easier way to ensure that the reference isn't changing. Now the word needs to change. So now what I can do is click on this one, then go back up to my formula box and click biracial. Now one of the very important things that we need to remember is we have to be sure to type it exactly as it is in the formula. Because if we have a mistake, now what I did this time is I made it a small b. That doesn't matter. But if I spell it incorrectly, whoops, if I spell it incorrectly, let's see what happens. Oh, it comes up with 0 because it didn't find this word, black, with no C. But if I put it back, then it fixes it. So the capital doesn't matter so much, but certainly the spelling does. The Excel is smart, but it's not that smart. It only can do what you tell it to do. Okay, and now we're at other. And now what we're going to do is do the sum. And this is something we showed in a previous video. So I'm going to go up to my boxes and include where I want the sum to appear. Make sure I'm back on my home screen and then click this. And this is where we see our mistake. Again, I'm not going to ferret out why the mistake is there or where it is, but there's an issue. And this is why I sum the totals, to be sure that this number of students, number in this list, equals this. And right now it doesn't. So I know there's a problem and I need to look at this data. So that's the reason that I do that. Okay, so we're going to do the same here. We're going to do count. You always have to start with an equal sign. Count if, and I click on it. And now the range, we choose the range. You can type the range in if you want. If you can remember, what the row is, because remember the range is going to change by the column, and you can remember which rows you're doing. So right now I'm doing G4 through G128. So I make sure I only go up to G4. And now we're going to click a comma. And what I'm looking for in here is the age range 0 to 4. Remember, I need to put it in quotes, 0 to 4, quotes, and then parentheses. And we have 0. We have 0, 0 to 4. And so I'm going to do the next one, equals count if, parentheses, and the range. I'll type in the range this time. So the range is G4, and then I'm going to do the colon through G128, comma, and then the criteria is going to be 5 to 12, because that's the next age group that we're looking for, and parentheses. And now we've got 125. So I don't really need to do the next one because this tells me that all of the children are between the ages of 5 and 12. But I'll do it anyway just for practice. So one of the other things you can do in seeking the formula is if you go here, insert function, and then you can find any function you want. And there's many, many functions. So if I click on count, it's going to give me all the different options, right? So this to me is a little bit more complicated way to do it. It's much easier for me just to type it in here, but always start with the equal sign. This is the most important because this little box will not pop up if I don't start with the equal sign. If I just put the word count in, it does nothing. But if I do equals count, and then I find if, and now again I'm going to do my range. I can do it this way or I can type it, depending on what's easiest for you. If you can remember it, probably typing is easier because your chances of going too far are less. And now I'm looking for 13 through 18, end quotes, and parentheses, and again 0. So again, if I want to double check myself, I don't really need to here, but if I want to, I can go like this, and now I can see the total is 125. Okay, so now male, female. So again, I'm going to be searching for these words. And again, the capitalization doesn't matter, but the if you have a typo, it does matter. So again, equal, count, if, and the range is going to be H. If I look up at the top, this is H, and it's going to be the same as always, H4 colon through H1 to 8. Now, if I did H129, it's not going to matter because there's nothing in this cell. But if I'm looking at data sets that might be overlapping, then I have to be really careful that I'm not going into another data set and messing myself up. So again, quotes, male, end quote, and parentheses, and I have 65 males, and now I'm going to do the same for female, equal count, if, and the range is going to be, again, H4 colon H1 to 8. Now, if you wanted to do every other, you could do that. It doesn't have to be a range all in a row. You could choose different ranges. Now, here it wouldn't make sense because I'm not doing traditional math. I'm counting. But if I wanted to add something from column C and something from column D and something from column E, I could do that by just typing in the different cells. So now I'm doing, get rid of this colon. I want this, and female. Okay, and 60, and now I want to see if this adds up. I can see on the surface that it does, but just to be sure. Okay, so this is a way that we can make a formula. And one of the great things about these formulas are that we can use them to keep this dynamic, right? So if I want to change this male to a female, look, it changes my spreadsheet, and it changes the counting. I can change them back to a male, and now it goes back. So this is really important to be able to use this to show a dynamic data set, because sometimes something might change. You might realize that you were wrong the first time you did something. Maybe you have the child's age wrong. What I've done here, because all of this data should be put in on the first day of camp, and so what I did is I put in their birthday. I had the birthday put in, and then here I have a formula that is calculating their age based on today's date. Because over the time that they're in camp, between the time when they entered camp and the time when they leave camp, they may have aged, and I want to be able to capture their age at the proper time. So this is another formula that I used. So it's just, the lesson is to show you that there are many, many great formulas that you can use to make your life a little bit easier. So if you put in the data, then you can use the formula to calculate different things within the data. So the next video, I will show you a few more things on how to do drop-down boxes and a few other things. But for now, I think this is a great thing for you to practice.